Hi guys, how are you? I hope everything is well. The second portion of chapter 4, I simply have you doing two types of problem. The very first one is calculating cost of goods sold. That might seem really familiar to you because in Accounting 202, we covered cost of goods sold versus ending inventory. Here, we're literally looking to calculate that, and how do we actually physically calculate that cost of goods sold number. So I'm going to read your problem, sorry. And again, here, I'm actually going over two examples in the textbook. I am going over, for the cost of goods sold portion, I'm going over number 11, and it is on page 114. So if you need to look at the bits and pieces of information, it's on page 114 and it is 11. That's the one I've got on the board. I'm going to give you a very similar one for your homework. So in reading over this, it says cost of goods sold. And of course, we're talking about FIFO here. Remember, first in, first out is FIFO. Last in, first out is LIFO. So these ones are all taken into the FIFO system. So on December 31st of last year, Wolfson Corporation had an inventory of 450 units in its product, which cost $22 per unit to produce. During January, the company produced 850 units at a cost of $25 per unit. Assume that Wolfson Corporation sold 800 units in January. What was the cost of goods sold? And if you remember, we used to set this up in tables, but here we're not asking about any of the very specifics. We're not going over 5 or 6 different purchases and things like that. All we're talking about is the old versus the new. They've given you two scenarios here. They've given you what they already had, their old inventory, versus what they produced on the line during this month. And then they told you that they sold 800. So the question is asking you, how do we calculate the cost of goods, or what is the cost of goods on 800 units sold? So because we have two different prices, all we have to do is separate them into old and new. So the old, it tells us that we have 450 of them and they cost $22 to produce. So just do the math, multiply them. 450 times 22 should give you 9,900. The new ones that we produced during this month says there was 350 of them, and we produced them at a cost of $25. So again, this is just simple multiplication. 350 times $25 should come to $8,750. So if we want our total cost of goods sold, we're taking the old quantity, the old inventory, how much it cost, 9,900 plus the 8,750. That's what I'm doing over here is the math. Add those two numbers together and it gives you the total cost of goods sold at 18,650. That's as difficult as this problem gets. All they're doing is separating it into the old, the inventory that's already on hand, the new stuff that they produced, add those two numbers together and it gives you your total cost of goods sold. So we're not going to make this video any longer than it should be. I will see you on the next video. Bye guys.